If you're out there just bending over backwards to pitch someone something and it just feels really hard, then maybe it's just not the right product and you need to work on your product market fit. Because when it is the right product and when you have product market fit, it doesn't feel that hard.
How do you go from a $500 investment to competing with a $26 billion juggernaut? Well, that's what Chris at Pit Viper did. He bootstrapped his business. He now competes with Luxottica as a lifestyle brand that started with sunglasses. This is an incredible episode. Chris talks to us about how to think about category expansion, even when the new category might be something that goes against what you built your brand on. He talks about brand as a moat and how to think about brand as a living, breathing thing. He talks about what to do in a PR crisis and how to stay true to your brand, even under those difficult, tense moments when you're not quite sure what to do next. This is an incredible episode. Chris deconstructs every customer touch point and how you should think about it. He's very thoughtful. I think you're going to learn a ton. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris from Pit Viper. Chris, welcome to What to Do Next. Really excited to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, David. Excited to chat.
You built an incredible business, Pit Viper. You started, I believe, selling it as like a joke with Chuck, your co-founder. You're now competing with Luxottica, a $26 billion glasses maker. You guys are well on your way to becoming a major player in that space. Tell us a little bit about how it started, how it's going, and the evolution of the company.
Back in 2012, Chuck and I were old friends from college in Boulder, and we moved out to Salt Lake City to be even closer to the mountains and ski, and we're spending the time off mountain just talking about different product ideas, different business ideas. And one of the things we noticed was that there was basically only either $300 premium sunglasses or like $35 throwaway garbage. Nothing really in the middle. And then just by happenstance, Chuck found a pair of military surplus sunglasses, a store in Idaho, and we adopted them, called them Pit Vipers, and decided this was like us. This was our product. We loved how it looked. We loved how it functioned. And that was the Pit Viper original. We started there and kind of built into the company from that one point. We're able to bootstrap because we had our product. 12 years later and going, we have hundreds of options on our website for eyewear. We partnered with massive names like Rob Gronkowski and Travis Pastrana, and just growing and having fun.
Chris, incredible story. I think at one point, as you were taking this from, a nice idea that really was innocent and you had no idea where it would land, you at some point, I believe, sold your house after a Kickstarter campaign and went all in on Pit Viper. Bring us back to that moment.
Yeah. So, I mean, it goes back to that, like the joke that went too far. And at the beginning, like we thought we had something, but we weren't certain. And I built a Shopify site, and the one indicator that I noticed that like really told us that like we were onto something was we hadn't even launched our site. But I didn't have a password on it because no one knew what Pit Viper was yet. So why put a password on it? And just as we had like set up our payment information, someone placed an order. Someone we didn't know. How did this person find us? Like, where did they come from? And like, okay, I think this is a solid indicator. And yeah, I mean, we like to say that it was the joke that went too far because it gets the chuckle, but there was early indicators at the beginning. And I think that's one of the things that anybody that is starting out or thinking about starting out can really focus on is like, if there is this inherent attraction to your product from the beginning, whether it's from you or especially from strangers, you might be onto something. And so, yeah, we started selling on Shopify. We launched back in the day. It was a Kickstarter. That was a classic way to get a bunch of pre-orders and get our manufacturing up and running. And the Kickstarter went successfully. We also probably pulled in I think it was like $40,000 in a month on our Shopify store at the same month. And that was the moment where I was like, okay, I'm all in. I quit my other job. I sold the house so that I didn't have a mortgage. I got a place to rent and was like, okay, this is what I'm doing. Let's build. Let's see where this can go.
You touched on a piece of wisdom, which is you shouldn't have to struggle too hard with product market fit. But how do you know when it's signal versus noise? I'll give you an example. I mean, when I was building David's Tea, I remember the first day we opened, it was on Queen West in Toronto, which is, like Prince Street in Soho and the Canadian version of it. We weren't even done construction. There was a ladder in the window. And my partner's wife was like, just open the doors. And we did. And the demand was there. And we were understaffed. I had to pull in my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, and my brother and various family members to sell tea. And we didn't know what we were doing, but it was all very exciting. And we ended the day with a number in sales that we couldn't have dreamed of, which of course, fast forward 10 years would have been a small number for one of our 200 doors. But the part that we don't tell in that story, which is sort of what this podcast is about, is Monday came around and we did almost nothing. So we had a big Saturday, and Monday I was like, oh my, I think we had 1,500 on a Saturday, and Monday was $400. And I was like, we are in trouble. How did you know? I mean, you did $40,000 in a month, or you had somebody come to the site randomly when you put it up there. But when did you say to yourself, this is true signal versus perhaps a few fortunate early events? And did you have anything that then happened later on where you're like, maybe I made a mistake?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's an incredible question because, at some point, I don't think you can ever really know. I think that at some point you have to take it on faith, but paying attention to these early signals, whether it's like, okay, I am struggling to sell this widget A to anyone that'll listen to me, and no one really wants to give me the time of day. Maybe it's the wrong product. Maybe it's the wrong place. For us, it was this, we just started calling it the Pit Viper effect, where our product just kind of started opening doors for us in a very organic way. We weren't there to pitch people. We weren't there to sell them on our eyewear. We were there to bring a party, bring a certain attitude.
Hi, I'm David. I'm the president of Highbeam. But before that, I built a brand called David's Tea from 0 to 200 million in sales, and I took it public on the NASDAQ. Highbeam is a banking and cash management platform for consumer brands. It's the bank I wish I had when I was building David's Tea. We'll turn banking from a cost center for you today into a profit center for you tomorrow. We'll make you better cash back on ad spend. We'll maximize your yield on idle working capital through daily automated sweeps. And we have a host of AI-powered tools to save you a boatload of time. Check us out at highbeam.com and let's talk.
I remember early on, there was this concert that Chuck and I went to here in Salt Lake at a tiny venue called Kilby Court. And it was this band that we were really into. That's a joke band called Turquoise Jeep. And we were just kind of laughing at Chuck had his trademark briefcase that is spray painted, looks wild, and has a bunch of Pit Viper sunglasses in it. And just by a handful of circumstances, we end up in the green room with Turquoise Jeep handing out these sunglasses, and they're all putting them on. And the attitude was very positive and not salesy. And it was just an excitement and an organic excitement. And I kind of cringed when I used the word authentic too much, but it felt very genuine. And little moments like that built on top of each other that really gave you the confidence to keep on going. And I'm certain for you that Monday was that's the trough of despair, right? And you're questioning every action you've taken, every decision you've made. And I think everyone has those days. And then, Tuesday is a little bit better. and Wednesdays maybe better. And then like you go on this cycle, and then like a month from there, then you're like, okay, actually this is kind of working. I don't know. That was our experience.
How much pressure did you put on yourself? For me now, I put far more pressure on myself today than I did starting out my career. There's almost this being naive can be a competitive advantage in the early days. Like here you are, you sold your house, you're all in, you quit your job, you're at a concert. I mean, yeah, okay, Chuck's got some glasses in the briefcase, but that was pretty serendipitous. Likely outcome could have been you guys saw a nice concert, went home, and we're not talking about that.
Exactly. I mean, to have the naivety and to have much, much less responsibility is a superpower. And so like even just when you're starting out, like they could feel like big risks, but it's kind of like peanuts at the beginning, and like take those risks. Like there's going to be, I mean, for that one story, that one concert that like, we're hanging out with the band, like there's probably 10 other stories that just didn't happen. And we're not talking about those, like early on, take those risks and like get yourself in front of people. And I mean, honestly, like with hindsight, we were lucky. We were mid to late 20s, and we didn't have a family to support. So we could kind of take those risks, quit our jobs. It would certainly be harder now. I mean, I put way more pressure on myself these days. And like my expectations for even my own performance and my company's performance, like we didn't choose an easy profession. We didn't choose something that like you can go clock in and clock out and then turn it off at the end of the day. And if it's not easy, then you should love it. And I love it. I'm the Lego kid that built whatever he wanted to and didn't follow the instructions. And I am still that kid today. I just have different kind of building blocks. Even though it stresses me out and I hold me and the people I work to an insanely high standard, at the end of the day, we're having fun. And like this brand for us is like telling jokes and taking ourselves less seriously. And it's a reflection of my personality. It's a reflection of Chuck's personality, and the people we have here know that. And at the end of the day, I would never have it any other way. So I would encourage people to like look long and hard at themselves and try to understand what their personalities are. And I think a brand excels the most when it is a reflection of yourself.
In the early days, that's obviously easier to do. You have very little to lose. There's not a lot of stakeholders. Fast forward to today, I think you guys have probably around 80 employees, 8-figure brand. You have this very unique brand tone. Not only that, but you're in the middle market. A lot of people would say the middle is the hardest, right? You either want to go up market or down market. The middle gets squeezed out. You guys have made a go of it in the middle. You've done it where you've had all kinds of knockoffs flood in terms of the style of your sunglasses, but you've managed to maintain this brand authenticity. How do you think about risk now? And how do you maintain that culture and that brand as you scale up? Because it really has been, I mean, the brand voice is the competitive moat for you. It's not the product.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much to unpack there. I mean, for one, yeah, it's the messy middle, right? And that's where we've chosen to play. And there's a power to that too, where we have a different value proposition that we can give to people, right? We're not the $35 throwaway. We're not the $300 burn a hole in your wallet. Fighting every day for our brand is, again, one of those things that like we're going to grapple with in our meetings interpersonally, like between founder and co-founder every single day. A brand is not like what we think it is. It's what you, our customer, thinks we are. And like it's their perception of who we are that is our brand. And that is different for everyone. And the people who get it right can align the most like outside audience into a similar perception of what their brand really means. And that resonates with that audience. We've morphed and changed over the years. Maybe some people would say that Pit Viper is sold out because at the beginning we made fun of people wearing goggles, and that was like one of our like jokes and hooks to like sell people on wearing sunglasses skiing. And now, of course, we've gone into ski goggles, and they've been very popular for us and like growing our business. And so the brand isn't just like this difficult thing to wrap words around, wrap your mind around. It's a moving object that is always going to be like in a different place every day that you look at it. Thinking about it as like brand risks, I really love taking brand risks, and we're lucky to be in a place where we have this really outspoken, wild brand that people kind of expect us to do weird and wild stuff. Like we partnered with General Mills last year and launched a cinnamon toast crunch pair of Pit Vipers with spoons for earpieces that like flew off the shelves. And like those are the kind of like weird, wild things that we get to play in and like end up actually supporting our brand and then creating like a very unique space for us. And that like brings us back to like, if we live in this unique mind space, then we can hold this unique price point, and it all kind of lends itself to each other.
So many interesting things you just said there. I mean, you know, when you think about brand, you describe it as being able to get a group of people to think similarly about a product set and what it means for them. You also just talked about earlier on a brand should reflect you, your personality, which is what makes it, you know, not authentic but genuine, which I agree is a less overplayed word. But you then say, you know, we built a brand telling people goggles, you know, making fun of goggles, and then we launched goggles. When you have that moment, like your business is growing, it's going well. What's that what to do next moment where you guys say to yourself, okay, we're going to break what seems like an ungenuine move, what seems like a break in the consumer psychology of how they view us, and we're going to launch a product category that we previously made it seem like not in a million years we would launch. How do you arrive at that decision? And how do you then, you know, the General Mills thing, I get, it's weird, it's wacky, it's not taking yourself too seriously, it's on brand. But, you know, off brand is, I'm going to launch a category that I literally spent all this airtime telling people not to buy. Bring us into that room, like how you guys think about that.
Oh man. I mean, it was a lot of disagreement, a lot of back and forth, and quite honestly, probably too much time. And like, one thing that I have been trying to practice more recently is making a decision and moving forward with it faster, because at the beginning, really, we sat on ideas for a very long time until we had a very good idea of how it would look. And so for goggles, I mean, there's so many different ways to look at it. The one side was like, okay, we spent all this time and effort like making fun of goggles and telling people that they look silly and you should just wear sunglasses. Okay, that's fun and like gave us like a like angle to sell our sunglasses in, but also like then, you know, we just had the craziest snowstorm here at Salt Lake yesterday, and if you're skiing in that, you kind of want goggles. And so, you know, there was, of course, you know, we're skiers. It's definitely not our only market, but like when we're up on the mountain and struggling through a snowstorm wearing our Pit Vipers just to make a point, and we come back to work the next day and we're like, we're telling people to do that still. And I think it was just like a moment of maturity where we're like, okay, we've got a foothold, we've got a little bit of momentum on like our existing product. The grown-up eyewear brand or grown-up business would say, this is time to launch into more of the eyewear category. And so, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it was a decision that made sense. Oh, we fumbled on our way there too. We launched the original Pit Vipers, found military surplus. That was the design that we based the originals on. So we're like, okay, let's go back into 80s dead stock and find what we think is the coolest goggle from the 80s, and let's just make that. And you know, at the time, we didn't have like a robust product design team like we do now. We didn't have like this like intricate process with is like very good at development and testing. Or just like that. We'll just make that one. Let me tell you, there's a reason that people don't wear goggles from the 80s still. And they're not very good.
Right.
So, you know, we launched a product that, you know, we were proud of and looked great, but was it functioning all that well? No. And so, honestly, like there's a lot to learn there. And like the development of product became like absolutely paramount to how we move forward as a company and how we think about category expansion from there. That was our first true category expansion. And now we have like a framework to understand like, okay, what were our mistakes and how do we want to move forward in like the next one, which I mean, we just did with ski helmets recently. And that was meticulously planned and designed and tested as it needs to be because it's a helmet and launched incredibly well. And so, yeah, it's a learning process. And I mean, I've probably failed more than I've succeeded here, but I just show up every day and try to make the best decision with the information I have in front of me.
You're describing brands maturing, much like people do. There's obviously a subset of your customer base that I'm sure was like, you've changed, you know, you're selling out. I'm sure you've heard that at some point in your development. First of all, what's the risk of a brand not maturing and continuing to do things the same thing that made them who they are and what they're known for?
Honestly, I think that is the question, because, you know, there's this mindset especially when we were starting out, we're like very dedicated to this like concept of being like a core brand. And that led to a lot of decisions that maybe paid off in the long run, but slowed us down at the beginning. Like at first I was dead set against advertising. Wow. That's crazy. That's insane. How do you run a company without advertising? You know, we got past that, but being too rigid in how you perceive your brand and not being willing to like adapt and learn and adapt your brand to your new circumstances and the new day that you're showing up is a major, major risk. Another thing that was like crazy that we did several years in, we had a very strong direct-to-consumer business, and we were saying no to retail. We would say yes to the here and there bike shop, ski shop that wanted to, you know, mom and pop shops that wanted to carry us because, you know, they thought they saw something in us, and we loved that. But we were saying no to people like Shields. And it was all from this, like, my earlier perception of what Pit Viper needed to be and my earlier perception of what, like, I thought our customers wanted us to be. I grappled with that decision for a very long time and was very dead set on, no, we're not going into big box stores. Eventually I had maybe a smarter person than I talked to me, pulled me aside. He was our executive advisor, great guy, Mike Tabia. He's a legend in the eyewear industry. He talked to me about the billboard that I'm missing out on by saying no to these accounts. And the concept of this staying power in this real estate that you have once you are in these accounts, and you suddenly start building partnerships, and you have relationships with these people, and you work with them to grow your brand and you grow your reach. And we eventually reversed that decision, and Shields almost immediately became our largest in-house account, and still today they really crush for us. And I think I wish I would have been more flexible at the beginning to believe that that was part of the Pit Viper brand, could show up in that space and still be really us. It just took me some time to get there. But yeah, I think that, what I learned is really D2C is a launch pad, but you come to retail and you have validation. And that is something that will live in a consumer's mind for a much longer time than some ad impression.
Early on, though, it was truly those customer touch points that helped you build the brand, right? I mean, if I have it right, even the email you sent when they bought had a bunch of jokes in it. The packaging was quite unique. Like, at the end of the day, you sell what has become a fairly commoditized product in the messy middle, as you described it. But where you've really won is by having this crystal clear, unique identity that has resonated with this customer base. How much harder is it to have the brand speak on someone else's shelf?
It's nearly impossible to tell the kind of brand story that I really want to tell on a retail shelf. And that's why I was so resistant to it for so long. Because really what I want for my customer is to get to experience our brand soup to nuts, so that, they see our website, they read our copy, they go through the purchase decision, and then they see transactional emails. Like, that's one of the things that I agonized over forever, was like making the transaction emails something that was fun to open and entertaining. Like, the biggest thank you can give to your customer is just making those, like, order confirmation, shipping confirmation, delivery emails just so much fun to open. And yeah, honestly, you really can't do that in retail. And, we try. We work closely with our partners to, develop point of purchase media and, like, put some jokes in there and talk about our product in the way that we would. Fortunately for us, the Pit Viper Original speaks the brand so clearly in its own self. It's like the product speaks the brand, that people kind of get it. But yeah, we don't get as much opportunity to interact, and that's what I do love about D2C, and that's really why I like to focus on it.
And I believe you guys have avoided Amazon, no?
We did for a very long time. However, we are on Amazon now. And that's another shift that we made over time. I mean, first it was out of necessity. You mentioned counterfeits. Anything that is injected plastic is going to be counterfeited. Just talking to a friend last night and recounting our just the saga of trademark problems that we've had. But we have, I think it was on the order of like 20 other Chinese trademark registrations, and they were all selling on Amazon. And Amazon would look at us and be like, well, you don't sell here. So they do. And we kind of couldn't get the time of day. Part of our decision to move to Amazon was this need to be able to enforce our brand and our trademark. And we decided that like having business with Amazon would give us the leverage that we needed to help take down counterfeiters, which it did. That was, I mean, once you have a decent business with Amazon, then they tend to listen to you a little bit more. And now my perception is really, I think that there's two different kinds of customer. And shopping online, you're either just like default Amazon and that's where I'm going to search for the product. I don't care where I heard about it and saw it. I want Prime. I want it tomorrow. And then there's the other customer that's, I'm going to type this into my search bar and I'm going to go to pitviper.com and I am going to browse around there. And the Amazon customer probably wants a more limited selection, more specific, like the more popular stuff, and they just care that they're going to get it fast. And so that's what we do. We've got, a much wider selection on our owned store. And then we've got the best sellers, the hits. We play it to Amazon, and I really see it as just a necessary place for a brand to show up.
Is there anyone listening to this who's maybe building a brand who's coming up behind you? Is there any circumstances where you'd say to that person, don't go into retail, don't go on Amazon?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, you need to prove yourself. I said just a little bit earlier that like your D2C is your launchpad. Prove that your brand has some power. Prove that you've got sales. Retail was easy for us to go into because we had people knocking on our door. We had validation through, the popularity on social media and the sales that we were generating. And so I think that like for any founder that's working on a brand now or thinking about working on a brand, I would focus on building what you can build and not trying to go out and be like, okay, I got to take down Target or Shields or I'm not going to have a business. Like prove that you can do it direct, and then the rest is going to be way easier.
Yeah, that seems to be a theme for you where you shouldn't have to work so hard to find customers, right? Like in every case, in every step of the way, the customer has come to you. If I'm listening to this right now and I'm struggling to get customers, what's my what to do next moment? How would you think about that?
I honestly think about that a lot. And I think it really comes down to product. If you're out there just bending over backwards to pitch someone something and you are just, it just feels really hard, then maybe it's just not the right product and you need to work on your product market fit. When it is the right product and when you have product market fit, it's not that hard. It doesn't feel that hard. Well, like we said earlier, there's always hard moments, but you start seeing those wins a little bit easier. Someone who's, I run into a million founders that will launch into the elevator pitch immediately and like tell you, their value propositions and exactly why you need this. And I've never had that approach. I've always just allowed the conversation to flow naturally. And sure, I benefit from something that you wear directly on your face, so people ask you about them. And, that is helpful. But at the end of the day, no one wants to be pushed into purchasing something. Everyone wants to identify with something and then bring it into their lives as something that like is a part of their personality.
Speaking of tough moments of business, Chris, January 6th, the Capitol gets breached. Pit Viper product is on the faces of these white supremacists storming the Capitol. You guys are running live shopping events where you're having all kinds of racial slurs and profanity come up. I believe you had to shut one of them down. Talk about a what to do next moment that I think if some founders may have experienced, but most haven't yet. But if they get big enough, they likely will. Yeah. This is a PR nightmare for you. Take us back to that moment. How are you thinking about it? What are your options and what do you ultimately end up doing?
Oh man. I mean, talk about the double-edged sword. I just finished saying like it's something that you wear on your face and so people notice it and see it. And yeah, I mean, being worn on maybe call it the wrong face, you are instantly yeah, your brand is instantly like linked in that way. A tough moment. And I'm proud of our company for how we reacted to it. I think that most would maybe put out a statement or go silent for a little bit or just try to distance themselves. At the end of the day, we decided to go to Twitter at the time, X now, and donate to a cause that was actively against white supremacy. So, and in their name. And so it was like, we actually were able to flip it to a point where it was like, oh yeah, we can't like really control at least 100% of the time who is buying sunglasses on our website. And yeah, this is going to link our brand to some things that we don't think we stand for. What we could do is take that person's name, donate it to something that, take that person's order, take that money, donate it to something that we do stand for, and tell people we did that. And that ended up being like actually certainly a little bit contentious too. You're never going to ride the line perfectly and people are going to be upset one way or the other. But I thought I was proud of us because it was very on brand. It was a very like Pit Viper, we're going to flip this on you kind of, reaction. I'm certain it's not the last time that we're going to have to deal with that kind of, I don't know, PR crisis. It kind of comes with the territory as brand grows. But our team handled it well, and we know what we stand for, which is we invite everyone as long as they are inviting of others, and we want to bring the party and like bring levity to a situation and bring fun. And as long as we're doing that and staying true to ourselves, then we'll be able to weather the next storm.
It's remarkable that you guys were able to stay on brand in such a difficult moment. You address the situation in a way that Pit Viper, the brand, should. I mean, I can't imagine when this first started happening, you weren't like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Right. So what are you telling yourselves? How did you get the space? Because I've been in PR crises too, and they feel like the sky is falling. It's almost like the filleted man, like the eye of the storm hits you. And then it moves on. And of course you're left completely shell shocked, but everybody else, the media cycle shifted. They've moved on. They barely remember it, but if it stays with you. But in that moment, it is all encompassing. How did you get enough distance to be able to come up with what you felt was the way Pit Viper should handle this?
The way you describe it is spot on. I mean, it feels like a personal attack, right?
Right.
Because we say, a brand is a reflection of ourselves, and then it's co-opted to something that you don't necessarily agree with, and then it's blown up with a megaphone, and then everyone looks at you and is like, wait, this is you? And you're like, no, this isn't me. This isn't the only hard part or hard time we've seen. But oddly enough, it was my knee-jerk reaction. I distinctly remember going to Slack, and we have an ideas channel. Donate to X cause in X name. The people here at Pit Viper were just like, that's it. That's what we do. Great. Cool. Okay. We've got a plan. Aside from the like kind of devastated, crushed feeling you have from a media cycle really focusing on that and thinking that like that is what you stand for, trying to use your creative builder brain to think out of the box. And one of the lines that we've always gone back to for Pit Viper is flip it on them. It kind of just means like try to look at it from a different way and see how you can turn this into a joke. And yeah, it was just a moment where it was like, okay, flip it on them. How do we do it?
Some amazing stories here, Chris. Another thing that's amazing about Pit Viper is that you guys, I think, started it with a few $100 and have never raised money. You and Chuck own it outright.
Yeah.
You now sell, you said it earlier, hundreds of items. You sell into retail, which doesn't have great cash conversion cycles. How have you been able to finance this thing?
We started small, but we grew small. I mean, like I mentioned, at first we didn't run ads, and I say that was because I wanted to be core, but it was also probably because we didn't have a budget for ads. We had to be word of mouth. And for a long time there, we were doubling or tripling every year, and we just weren't taking any money out from the beginning. And that, I mean, as like, again, one of those benefits of being young and with low responsibilities where you're like, okay, I can live on $400 a month and we're just going to sleep in the office. Like, that's fine. We were lucky enough that we ran a strong margin business. We were, for the most part, smart about inventory, although we've made our mistakes there too. And we were running, fantastic cash conversion because it was D2C at first. Honestly, like a growing pain of ours has been finding, that, dealing with accounts receivable. It's like, oh, huh. So they don't pay you right away, huh? And so like one of the things that we immediately did once we started moving into retail was also turn around to our suppliers and start negotiating terms with them. And we have some fantastic partners that help, in almost every step of building our product that we were able to, work with closely to kind of pace out how our purchase orders went. And so that allowed for this, like, it's not the best cash conversion cycle, but we were able to compress that time and a little stick-to-itiveness and thriftiness along the way. We've never really liked to spend money on much of anything.
What's the worst buying mistake you ever made?
Oh man. Oh, so many answers to that question. I was setting up this microphone and really annoyed with all of the tables that our like interior designer for our office chose because they're all rounded edges, so there's nowhere to mount anything on. So that is a very frustrating buying decision for me. But I mean, like, more honestly, I think the biggest slip up that I think we've ever had that, almost could have like put us at risk for, losing our company was right in the middle of COVID when we could not get product. And I just said, well, eyewear is not going to go bad. It's not going to expire. It can sit in a warehouse. Like, let's buy as much as we can. And we overbought by quite a bit. And it was because we weren't specific about the SKUs, the actual units that we were buying. We were just like, okay, go buy everything. We were not as experienced with our demand planning. We'd been growing, so it's like hard to demand plan for that too. And we just went, I literally said, like, just buy as much as you can. And, we've worked through that for a few years. And, at first it was like, okay, great. Yeah, COVID's always going to happen. And we're all, like, we all think this is reality and this is what sales are. And then, a little bit of a hangover happens where people start traveling and not spending on outdoor items quite as much. And that's a story that everyone's heard and everyone's told. But yeah, we were over inventoried, and it caused our cash flow to go, I think we were at one point south of like $100,000. And I was just like laying awake at night, like, okay, if I don't take a salary, if we like maybe sell some of our furniture, we're going to be okay. And of course, a busy season comes and his cash starts coming in the door again, and we ride it out just fine. But I mean, the lesson to learn is be cautious with your inventory purchases, be thoughtful with it. And if you don't have to, don't buy anything over like 6 to 9 months of inventory.
You were thinking to yourself, how do I get even more frugal in order to get out of this pickle? Not let's mark down these products like crazy. Let's find new sales channels for them. You didn't actually change anything about how you market and sold the product to try and accelerate the sell through.
That was part of it. But like, of course, with not having investors and, everything that's in this company is mine and Chuck's, you kind of go back to your old ways. And that is just like, how do we pinch a penny here and just ride through it?
And if you're faced with another situation where, for whatever reason, demand spikes, what do you do differently this time?
It's about having a very good relationship with suppliers and making certain that you understand your supply chain from start to finish, and knowing exactly what kind of inventory you need on hand to not run out for a long time. Honestly, these days, I'd rather run out of inventory for a few weeks than be overbought, because that's just like, cash sitting on the balance sheet that you don't get to do other interesting things to support your brand with.
Chris, really enjoyed this. Thank you so much. We have a quick lightning round here at the end. What's a decision you're wrestling with right now?
Category expansion. Mentioned already, but I think it's like, again, one of these moments where we look at Pit Viper and what it has been for the last handful of years, and like, what does it continue to be on into the future? And for the last handful of years, I've considered it an eyewear brand. And now I'm trying to pressure myself into thinking a little bit more broadly about what that means, because I see our opportunity as, a Luxottica, a Oakley, a Ray-Ban. They're set. They're in there, and I'm playing against a monopoly that quite honestly, I'm playing a very difficult game. I'm playing the game on hard mode. The way to try to change that is to just play a different game, play our own game. And so I haven't made any hard, fast decisions on category expansion, but I want to do something that is really out there, that is just crazy enough to work. That's where my mind's at right now.
And of those bets, I mean, would you tell everyone listening to this, take crazy bets? Like, where do you say to yourself, that's not worth the risk? Because I'm assuming a lot of these crazy bets, they don't work.
Yeah, I mean, take crazy bets, but don't bet the farm. Like, you got to take a crazy bet that you have hedged with hard work. And those are the crazy bets worth taking. Like, if I can launch into a surprising category and spend $200,000 doing it, and it doesn't work, but people are like, whoa, that was weird, and did you see what Pit Viper just did? Then I've gotten some like brand cachet and some like PR and advertising out of it. And it's not all lost. It's just like, that product didn't work. Let's move on to the next thing. And so, yeah, take crazy bets. Just don't bet the farm.
Cool. Every founder building a brand should
place an order on their website today and then scrutinize every single step of the way to the product, to them receiving it. Like, actually get it. If you ship it yourself, just ship it to yourself. Or if it's coming from a 3PL, have the 3PL ship it to you. Like, take that cost and just like look at every single little thing and ask yourself, how can you make this unique? How can you make this different than your competitor? How can you make this like exciting and fun for your customer?
Chris, that's awesome. It's been such a pleasure having you on. I learned a lot here. It's amazing. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, David. It was super fun. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And yeah, maybe we can do this again some other time.
I love that.